Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Saucedo's YouTube videos. Today we're going to be going over our first lesson in genetics, which is all about Gregor Mendel's ideas. So let's start with a little bit about genetics and how it was quote unquote discovered. Okay, like we don't want to use the term discovered as if people hadn't known about genetics tangentially for like thousands of years. So first things first, one of the themes of biology that we talked about all the way back in semester 1 was that all living things inherit characteristics from their parents. So notice it says parent and then parentheses S. Why do you think it says that? Well, we already talked a little bit about asexual reproduction versus sexual reproduction. And so just remember that in asexual reproduction that technically you only have one parent. And so that's why it says parent parentheses S. So if we're talking about sexual reproduction, you have two parents. But asexual reproduction, you only have one parent. Okay, so who are we talking about? We're talking about Gregor Mendel. So he was this friar, or you can think of him like a priest. He lived in like a monastery a long time ago, and he was interested in studying how different characteristics are inherited, right? From parent to child. Now, he's considered the father of genetics, and what he was studying in the simplest terms was inheritance patterns. So what is genetics? Genetics is just the study of biological inheritance patterns. Another word for that is heredity. And so the thing about it is, like, notice like with the word inherit, inheritance, heredity, right? These are all things that are getting passed on. Like that's kind of the point. So he decided to do his experiments on pea plants. Why do you think he chose pea plants? So feel free, you can pause, think and muse to yourself. A couple of reasons. I mean, there's more than just these two reasons, but first, pea plants reproduce really quickly and they have lots and lots and lots and lots of offspring. So if you were doing this with like, horses or I don't know, dogs or something, it would take a lot longer to get good data because, you have to wait however long it takes for a horse to reproduce in order to have a baby, right? And typically, dogs and horses don't typically have that many children, whereas pea plants, they have thousands, right? Like they have hundreds of little babies all the time. So you're picking something that reproduces quickly and also that has lots of offspring so that you're able to get data quickly and then also have a lot of data to choose from. Also, of course, like, we're on a monastery, there's a lot of downtime. And of course, you get to eat them. So like, you're not wasting anything. Like you're growing these things and you're probably putting them in like a soup or a stew or something. So what exactly was Mendel's idea? So before we talk about it, we're going to define a couple of terms, but the first term that we really never talked about, even though we talked about sexual reproduction to some degree, is the word fertilization. So what is fertilization? Fertilization is the process of combining sperm and egg cells. And so this is like fertilization, right? Like combining sperm, egg cells together, that's fertilization. Now, plants are weird, and pea plants typically self-fertilize, which explains why when you see one pea plant, it typically looks very similar to another pea plant, right? And so here are some pea flowers. So these are purple pea flowers and white pea flowers. So I mean, clearly these are two different flower colors, but typically, like if you have a white pea plant and it's self-fertilizing, you're just gonna see white pea plant flowers, right? Like if you have a purple one, same thing, you're just gonna see purple flowers. So think to yourself here, right? Like what do you think self-fertilize means? And then I'll show you like a little diagram, but. So self-fertilization is where the flower's pollen is just fertilizing its own flower, right? So like the pollen is kind of like the sperm cell. And so the pollen is just falling into the flower and fertilizing itself, which explains why offspring typically look, identical. What Mendel was doing was crossbreeding. And so the way you crossbreed is you get a different colored flower. So, in this case, a red one. And you take the pollen from the red one and you put it into the reproductive tract of the other flower that's a different color. So in this case, purple, right? And so you use like a little paintbrush or something. So you basically get a little bit of pollen and then you drop the pollen here. And so the stamens are like these things, right? That like the little anthers are on, and that's where the pollen is. And then you just kind of delicately kind of brush it onto the carpel. And then right here in the center, that's where the egg cell is. So you're kind of taking the sperm cells from one and you're putting it into where the egg cell is going to get fertilized of the other. And that's crossbreeding. And that's what Mendel was kind of interested in, was like, hey, what if I mix these things together? What's going to happen? All right. So what exactly was he observing? What did he want to observe, right? What he was interested in are traits. So traits are just, well, I mean, we can ask, right? But physical characteristics that an individual has. So any physical characteristic that an individual has, that's a trait. Now think to yourself here, right? We're talking about plants. What kind of traits do plants have, right? Like think about a plant or a flower. Just think about a flower, right? Like from like a rose or whatever. Just picture anything. What kind of traits do plants have, right? You might think to yourself, there aren't very many. No, there are hundreds of them. Flower color is just one, right? That's the one that like is most visible and easy to see. But also, you know, the seeds might be different colors. The seeds might be different shapes, like here, right? We got purple versus white flowers. Axial versus terminal flower position. That means like, you know, instead of being at the end of the branch or the end of the stem, the flower is like in the middle, right? Seed color, yellow versus green. Round versus wrinkled. Some peas are wrinkled. They're not perfectly round. Some pea pods are constricted so you can see all of the peas, whereas the most common ones that we're used to are inflated, right? Like these are like English. I think these are English peas. I think typically are inflated. Or, you know, the pods, the pea pods could be different colors, green or yellow. Like these are just some of the different characteristics that he was looking at. What about humans? I mean, we have hundreds of traits. What kind of traits can you think of? Right? Like think about it. There's hundreds. Hair color, eye color, height. Are your earlobes attached or are they free hanging? Do you have dimples? Do you not have dimples? These little lines when you like smile, right? Chin. Do you have a cleft or no cleft? That little like divot in the center. Widow's peak or straight hairline, right? Do you have this little V-shaped thing for your hairline or is it straight? Finger hair, like on your knuckle of your finger. Do you have hair? Do you not have hair? Can you bend your thumb backwards? That's called the hitchhiker's thumb, right? All of these different characteristics are different traits. So again, that's the end of the lesson. If you have any questions, let me know, but make sure you fill in your notes.